Hello and welcome back, and that's right, today I want to talk about this, the Synology B drive. We've already done a massive review on this rather quirky and unusual product from the brand Synology, a brand that we largely associate with network attached storage. Now, that video went on for about 20-30 minutes, and I thought, you know what, just like other videos, let's make ourselves a short form review version. And in this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you might want to consider the Synology B drive for your storage architecture, but I'm also going to give you 5 reasons why you might want to give this tiny little drive a miss. Let's crack on with number 1. Probably the most obvious thing for a number of you out there, but it is very user friendly. Now, I think Synology have always had to tackle very early doors when promoting this product. Who is it for? That's the big question that people have always asked since the very first time this got revealed. And ultimately, this is for people that are looking for hassle-free, non-tactile setup. They don't want to muck around. They just want something that plugs in and does its thing with very small amounts of input at any given time. And ultimately, compared to a lot of their NAS products, this thing is stupidly user-friendly. Not only as you would expect from an external SSD, and again, this is the 1 TB version. You just connect it via a USB port. You can use it as a standard external, of course, but it's more than that. It's the software that makes up for it. And the software inside this is not only incredibly intuitive, it's very well designed, just like a lot of the backup software on Synology NAS, but also the customization, in spite of its user-friendly nature. Everything from being able to create up to 5 versions of files in a very user-friendly fashion, supporting up to 5 client devices. The mobile device and input and setup is incredibly quick as well. And on top of that, everything from file version and format control to file size control. There's lots of different configuration options that are presented very, very user-friendly. And with the overall the user interface that you're accessing via your desktop computer or the mobile app, it is just so dang user-friendly. And when you're looking at the software that most NAS devices arrive with, and not just Synology, I'm talking about all NAS brands, as simple as they make it, they just simply can't get it simple enough that someone that doesn't care enough about storage is going to spend the extra time using it unless they choose to do so. Whereas this is designed so user-friendly when you're setting up for the first time, it's near impossible to get it wrong. So the price point of this thing, we're not looking so much at the price, we're looking at the value overall. Because if you're only looking at the B drive as an external drive, it's probably not going to be a great price for you. In my review, I highlighted that in the market, there are loads of external hard drives and SSDs that you can buy. And it's true. If you were to compare this drive with the likes of the SanDisk Extreme, the WD Passport, G-Tech, Sabrent, if you compare it like for like only as an external SSD, this works out really, really expensive. But it's not that. It's a backup solution hub. And with that in mind, and that wireless connectivity with this device via your local area network from your wireless client devices, as well as the local connection there with the connected PC, up to 5 of them, it's that software combined with the device as a USB Type-C SSD that utilizes 10 gig USB to 1000 megs. Once you compare this against external drives that give you those options and those services, then it becomes good value. Because even if you remove the Synology software and you only looked at it as a 10 gig USB external drive at 1 or 2 TB at $129 or $199 respectively, again, prices differ everywhere, don't forget your tax. You bear that in mind again and compare it against other drives of the same architecture, not including the software. There's only about $20 difference, maybe 30 at a push. So that's where that software comes in long term. And in that context, this drive is surprisingly good value. Now, one of the features that Synology banged on about a lot when they first talked about this device was B-drop. Now, this is going to be for a certain kind of user. If there was one tagline I would add to the Synology B drive, other than who is it for, it would be it's for a certain kind of user. And the kind of user that buys this is probably not going to buy this. But users that take advantage of the Max AirDrop facility, or just ease and convenience of migrating data from your mobile devices onto your desktop devices, it's going to be really, really useful. There's a nice simple feature that we talked about in the review where from your phone you can just go, right, that image, that file, that whatever, that photo that I go snap, send, and then wirelessly ends up on my storage device or on my desktop access, is going to be convenient. And if you're utilizing, say, an iOS device that records images in a different format to other platforms such as Android or Windows, it will convert the files within the app for you to be accessed there. And that's going to be really, really useful overall. What I'm saying is, AirDrop, although it's not a feature that everyone's going to use, it is a very useful feature to be having in an external drive. Yes, you can buy other external drives, but show me one of those external drives that you can connect to your local PC, be browsing on your phone and go, oh, I wish that was on my desktop PC, without using third-party cloud systems or messaging systems where that data now has to live on a server elsewhere, and you just want the data to go onto that. You can do that. It has to be connected to a local machine, but being able to do that on the fly is going to be very, very convenient, be it links, text, all the way up to documents, videos, and larger files too. I can't believe we've got to point 4 and I've not even mentioned this. Look at the size of it. And it weighs next to nothing. I think it's 43 grams overall, and it's got an M2 SSD inside. That's an NVMe as well to reach that 1000 megs. And it weighs sod all. It's absolutely tiny. Again, you saw my phone from earlier. I'm pretty sure my phone, a Pixel 6 Pro, weighs more than this. It's larger than this, and it weighs more than this. And this is where all of our data is going to live, and it's going to be able to be connected to a bunch of different devices, either via our local area network or directly attached there. It is incredibly small, pocket-sized, and stupidly convenient. I kind of alluded to this earlier on, but cross-platform support on this is also going to be useful, and it's something we've always had the option of within a NAS system, but of course having it on a NAS results in having to have a device that's on 24/7, and users that don't want that, this is going to be quite useful. If you're running your iPhone and your Windows machine and you want the ability to have a single storage area, a single storage backup hub for backup or just general file migration and synchronization between the two of them that can talk both languages and allow you to access the files respectively on either of those OSs, this allows it. There is that file conversion of photos that we mentioned earlier on, but just typically, right now, this allows you to communicate your iOS device with an Android device with a Windows desktop there. It's not perfect, and there's still stuff in development for that we'll talk about later on. But ultimately, as an external drive that allows you to migrate data between different OSs, that's really, really beneficial and not something that is universally supported across all external drives. You do have to depend on the format, and it's not impossible, but again, it does depend on different drives. But of course, as I've mentioned, the B drive is not for everyone, and the market and audience that go for something like a network attached storage device, they're not really going to be going for something like this. So I think it is worth touching on. Although there are good reasons to go for this, there's definitely some clear and obvious reasons why a number of you are not going to want to go for a Synology B drive.
Come on, that's just the way it is.
This first one was one of my earliest criticisms and something that I talked about during my early coverage of this device, because I did think it was something of a misunderstanding in the presentation of this overall, and that is, this is not a wireless drive. This does not have its own wireless NIC inside. Now, you might be thinking, well, of course it's not. It's an external hard drive, external SSD. Why would it have that? Well, that's because WD released a wireless passport, Seagate released a wireless backup plus. There are a lot of brands out there that in the past have released external drives that have a battery and wireless connectivity in them. Now, these are devices you could connect to your local PC, and not only could you access the data that way, but it also had its own Wi-Fi connection that you would connect to, and it would allow you to send data from your mobile phone or a handful of devices to that drive. Now, this does allow wireless data transmission, but it requires the device to be connected to a machine to send that data. Your mobile device, for example, will need to, using Wi-Fi, send to your local area network, and then it will communicate with the connected PC and send data to the drive. That is not the same as sending data to the drive. Now, you might be thinking I'm being overly critical here, and Synology have just released this device. You know, wireless connectivity on this is maybe something in a later version. Well, I'll tell you right now, the reason that is on the table is this is the Synology DS213 Air. That's right. For those of you not familiar with Synology's architecture, let's get that light right. The DS213 Air was Synology's wireless NAS. This had LAN on the back, sure, but it also had a 300 megabit wireless adapter on it. This device allowed you to have this as a NAS in your local area network, and you'd send data to it like any other NAS, but at the same time, you could send data to it wirelessly. You weren't going via the local area network, you were talking to it, which is a big deal. And I'm surprised that that wasn't included in this, given you can get wireless drives in the market these days. Now, I like the idea of a wireless NAS, and indeed, up until DSM-7, you could connect wireless adapters to the majority of Synology NAS drives. So, for me, I'm kind of a bit gutted that this doesn't have wireless connectivity inside it, rather than a reliance on a local area network through the connected PC and its own wireless adapter.
Come on, that's just the way it is.
Now, this next point is something that will change later down the line, but currently this does not have Mac OS support for the bulk of its features and services. Almost certainly you can connect it and it will be seen, but the actual application B drive isn't available for Mac OS right now. It is available on iOS, but if you are a Mac user right now, you won't be able to fully take advantage of the capabilities of this device. Windows users that have an iPhone, have an Android, they're going to be fine. I hate seagulls. But the rest of you that run a Mac primary OS PC machine are not going to be able to take advantage of this right now to its full extent.
Come on, that's just the way it is.
Now, this is another criticism that maybe down the line will get watered down and then eventually invalidated, but the fact that this system only arrives in 1 TB and 2 TB at launch is a little limiting. Now, fair play to them, they are utilising M2 NVMEs that have got to fit a very small framework. Almost certainly there are either 2230 or 2240 drives inside there, but overall that does mean that only at 1 or 2 TB, in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of storage. If you factor in, even if you do not include your mobile phone, and a lot of modern mobile phones these days are taking photos at 5 to 10 meg each. Even if you don't factor in the abundance and oversaturation of photos on our phones, and you only looked at 5 PCs and selected files and folders, you've got to put 5 PCs and 5 file versions each if you choose to. 1 and 2 TB is not going to last a lot of time. And then where is the data going after that? And in that point, you've now got to start looking at other backup means, which then starts to bring into question why you needed this in the first place. So just bear in mind, at 1 or 2 TB, it's not a vast amount of capacity. Almost certainly we'll start seeing larger capacity versions, maybe in a slight change of chassis, or as improvements in 2230 and 2240 M2 NVMe PCBs improve. But for now, 1 or 2 TBs is not a vast amount to be getting on with.
Come on, that's just the way it is.
Now, I already kind of alluded to this on this drive, but the fact that it needs to be connected to a PC at all times really does limit its deployment in certain scenarios. Now, why do you need to connect it to a PC at all times over USB? Well, so you can take advantage of the wireless connectivity there. And of course, because it is bus powered, just like any of those external drives I showed you earlier. However, because it doesn't have any kind of internal battery and it doesn't have that Wi-Fi connectivity, and at the moment it only supports Windows, that really does limit its capabilities for deployment there. Also, although when you do disconnect it, any file synchronization and backing up will be suspended and resumed exactly where it left off very easily, and you've got a few scheduled options there, I would still say that its only utilization is connected to your local PC for deployment. Being the only way you can move forward, does limit the device's overall utilization across different setups. You can disconnect it and connect it to up to 5 different PCs, which is good. But again, if you don't have a host machine that it's connected to and you want to back up the contents of your phone, you can't do that, which is a real bummer there. Now, we did connect it via USB to a few different devices, and some phone devices, the Pixel 6 Pro didn't, but my Pixel 2 did directly connect it, and it actually did appear, because it does appear natively on your Windows File Explorer there when you connect it as a standard USB drive. So it does have some capabilities to directly connect it cable to cable on this device, but then it's a little clunky, and it just comes back to my earlier point about the lack of native wireless connectivity that some external drives these days have.
Come on, that's just the way it is.
And finally, and this is kind of the culmination of a lot of my earlier points, and again, something that may change later, but there isn't an app on Synology's platform for the B drive in DSM. DSM on Synology, this is pretty much their big platform sell. DSM, that's why everyone goes Synology and their NAS solutions, the software over the hardware. But right now, there isn't a native B app, which is a real shame, because what would have been cool is the idea that I could just take this drive, connect it to it, and it would automatically back up and archive that data, or allow me to utilize the NAS instead of a desktop PC. Imagine I had an existing NAS system and I didn't want to have to provide access to my NAS for some of those connected users or devices, but I am okay giving limited access to this B drive for those devices, and therefore use the Synology's own internal security protocol to make sure that the file management and back and forth going to this does not grant access to this. Again, there are ways and means, of course, as this acts as an external drive. Almost certainly you can use Synology's own USB copy tool or some of the other hyper backup tools to just arrange a semi-automated, completely automated, or manual backup of this onto this, as and when you can do that. But there isn't a dedicated B drive app that allows you to take advantage of some of the features and services of B drop on the Synology existing NAS ecosystem. Imagine trying to do B drop from this, and what you want to do is B drop directly to that. Yes, there are Synology applications, but what if you want to use the B drop functionality and the user-friendly nature of that to send files to this via the NAS or vice versa, therefore creating another tier to your backup strategy? It may seem a little convoluted, and in some regards you may think it's a bit convoluted when, if you've already got this to start with, why do you need this? But I think I've talked a lot on the channel before about adding a USB backup to your range of backups, as it's a very affordable tier to add to an existing 3-2-1 backup strategy, or just a multi-tiered backup. And I think if the Synology have gone to the trouble of releasing a featured 1 or 2 TB SSD external over USB, they could have integrated it into DSM a little bit more than they have. But this may change later down the line. But this has been a Before You Buy on the Synology B drive. 5 reasons you should go for it, and 5 reasons you might want to sit on the fence a little bit longer. But what do you think? What do you think of this drive so far, what you've heard about it, or maybe you've already got one? I want to share your thoughts. Comments below. If you want to learn more, we've done a full hardware and software featured review on this device that is already live that I recommend you check out. And if you want to learn more, we've got the full review there as well, all linked in the description. If you want some more assistance in the right backup solution for you, your budget, your needs, your file type, your business, use the free advice section over on NAScompares, the big blue button on the right hand side of that page, or utilize our free community forum, Ask NAScompares, or contact us and other users in the Discord. And 1, if you found this video helpful, and 2, you were going to shop at the likes of Amazon, B&H, Newegg, Scan, any of those stores anyway, and you found this video helpful, make sure those 2 things are true, please use the links in the description to those stores. It won't cost you anything extra to use them, and they will take you to that retail store of choice. And when you get there, anything you buy, and I mean anything, results in a kickback coming to here at NAScompares, where it's just me and Eddie doing this. A video every day, 1 or 2 articles a day, and all of that free advice. So it allows you, by using those links, to passively support content creators like us and help us help as many people as we can. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic week, and I will see you next time.